Hi, my name is Alfred Nen, and I'll be your instructor throughout this series of screencasts we're going to build for CMP319. As a side note, this video screencast do not substitute the lectures or the course material, and what that means is you can't just watch videos and think you've covered the whole material. This is just to help give you hands-on knowledge on what to do and how it's done, and you see me actually go through some of the code samples and build some sample scripts for you. Now the course, basically it's a 21-page material which you should all have. If you don't, it's actually attached in this accompanying course material, and obviously I'm going to give you a URL that you can always go to find the sample scripts and the course materials anytime you feel like. Alright, so before we actually jump right into the PowerShell scripting and understanding the basic concepts and ideas, it would be a good idea to set up our environment. By setting up our environment here, I mean you have a good installation of VirtualBox, which you guys are already familiar with. VirtualBox is a virtual machine manager, which basically creates virtual machines for you. Now, virtual machines are, as opposed to previous times where you have to create physical machines, get physical machines and run some of this exercises. This time around you create what's called a virtual machine, which behaves like the real machine, just that it's actually being virtualized from your same computer. Alright, so before we go into everything, let's quickly set up our environment. Now the assumption here is that you have VirtualBox running, and obviously your VirtualBox is up to date. If you feel you don't have an up-to-date VirtualBox machine software, you can always contact me, send me an email, or you can always get it as a link on the URL I'm going to give you shortly. Alright, so we start with staring at the VirtualBox machine manager, and basically it's a simple software. As you can see, this at the left hand side, it shows you the list of all virtual machines available on the machine, and then at the right hand side it gives you all the properties associated with a particular virtual machine. As you can see here, I have one selected, so if I click on this, you can see all this change. You can see all the physical infrastructure hardware that you can virtualize. Alright, so instead of continuing this, I already have one set up for the course. I'm just going to go ahead and show you how to import the appliance I created for the course, so it becomes very easy for you to skip the installation process with the Linux operating system. Another thing you should note also is that we are running our operating system based on the Red Hat architecture. This is the CentOS Linux system. So some things might differ a little bit in terms of our path, considering the operating system. So for instance, if you're running Ubuntu, you're running Scientific Linux, you're running SA or SUSE Linux, then some of the parts might differ a little bit, but the concept remains the same. So anyway, and our goal is not to show you all the differences in the different operating systems, but is to actually give you the unified experience in terms of using bash and the command prompt. Alright, so to get started, make sure you have your virtual appliance installed or have in your system. You copy this from on your hard drive, and for you to run one, it's just as easy as coming to File, Import Appliance, and then you can say Open Appliance. So here you can locate the OVF or OVA file that I'm going to give you. So for me, I'm just going to locate it where I have it. So yours might be in a different location, so you can go ahead and look for that. Alright, so this is the CMP319 virtual appliance. So I click on Open and click Next. Now you can see some properties that you can change if you like, so that before you import the appliance. So in this case, you can give it a name. So I'm going to call it CMP319 course. So here you can leave the guest type OS to Red Hat, leave the CPU and the RAM requirements. This is something you might want to modify a bit. So what I would recommend is you check how much available RAM you have on your system, and based on that you can take 30% of the RAM available in your system and allocate it to the machine. So for instance, if you have a 1 gig machine, then 30% of 1 gig will roughly be around 300 and something. So you can change this to about 350 or 360, and that will be fine. Alright, so that being said, you can actually check the DVD option. This is required if you want to enable the virtual DVD drive. Now for the USB controller, I would recommend you uncheck it. The reason I've done that is because the time I did the virtual appliance, I was actually using the the add-on packages from VirtualBox. So if you don't have the add-on packages, then you're going to have an error when starting up your virtual machine. Alright, so everything remains the same. Another thing you can click is to reinitialize the MAC addresses of all network cards. This is just to regenerate some random MAC addresses. This is not required, but just for completeness, I'm going to check it. I'm going to click import. Now, depending on the speed of your system, this might take a while. Mine is not really taking that much time, obviously because I have so much RAM. But for you, I'll recommend you give it some time, and once it's done, then you have your virtual machine appliance imported. Okay, so mine, I'll just allow you watch through the process. Already at 99% of the import process, and once it's done, then yeah, so mine is done already. So you can see CMP319 course is off, and that's the only thing you're going to do. And because you've installed VirtualBox installs what's called a virtual network Ethernet adapter, which is a VirtualBox host only adapter. This is used if you want to communicate between your system and the VirtualBox host. This is okay. You can always ignore this if you just want to use the terminal. But for me, I have it set up because I'm going to show you some additional tips to actually using a tool called Potty that will allow you to log into the system remotely and manage it. Okay, so anyway, that has been said, doesn't matter. So at this stage, I'm going to click on the virtual machine and click start. So I'll bring this to view here. So here I'm just going to press enter and enter to bring up our virtual machine. Alright, so let me see if we can align this to our window so that we have everything covered. Alright, so I'm just going to go pause the video here and then come back when it's started, so I don't want you to stay and keep staring at this. Okay, so the system is up. You can see it is booted up and we are logged into the console of the operating system. Here you can see we are running CentOS release 5.6 final, and the kernel version is 2.6.18. so as I said, this is Red Hat based system. So the username and password is what you see under the screen. You can see here the username is root and the password is CMP319. Okay, so here we are not really bothered about logging in as a root user, even though this would be a bad practice to always use the root user to manage your system, because the root user has an all-in access to your system files, and unlike Windows, Linux can basically delete the partition on your system based on the root user. So you don't want to be using the root to administer your system if you're just running the Linux environment. But in this case, we're after the bash script, the shell script and all, so you don't really have to bother about the user in this case. So that's that, and that's done. If you run the ifconfig, which is synonymous to ipconfig in Windows, here you can see there's no IP address set on the system, and this is because we had to reinitialize MAC addresses. So just to make sure we're set up, you're going to run the system config network command, and this will bring up the network configuration tool. So in this case, I'm just going to edit devices, so I'll make sure I scroll to edit devices highlighted in red, and I press enter, and here you can see two addresses here. Don't worry about the last one, the 80.back. If you don't have it, it's fine. If you have it, then ignore it. Use the one that's just 8080. Just make sure I select it and press enter, and here you can see use DHCP selected here. So what that means is the system is going to actually query a DHCP server for IP address, but we don't want that. We want to manually or statically allocate or assign the IP address to it. So once I get to this place, you can see the arrows coming out. So the one highlighted in red, the asterisk, I'll press the spacebar tab. So the spacebar is used to select or deselect an option in the text-based mode. So you can see the IP address tab is available, so I can type the IP address. So for me, I'm running the IP address within this stack, so this is all I need to set. IP address is not part of this course, so I'll watch most of my time try to tell you what IP address is or it's not. Alright, so click OK and I click save, and then I have And if you're wondering how I'm actually going through all those options in time, I'm actually pressing the tab key. So once we've set the IP address, if I run an iconfig, you think that the IP address will be effective, but that's not the case. So what we need to do is restart the network service. So we run the service network, make sure you type it correctly, network restart. So once that's done and everything is up, here you can see that the system will come up, and if I run an ifconfig again, this time around you can see the IP address at the init tab. You can see 80, but we have inet addr and 10.10.0.1. Alright, so that being said, that's all I have to do in my system here. So the last thing I want to show you in terms of setup is, you might for you, if you feel you don't want to use the PuTTY, it's fine, you can go ahead and skip this part of the video. This is basically you being set up and getting ready for the next videos. But for those that want to run PuTTY, so hang on, you should have PuTTY in the root folder of the folder given you for the course. So for this, you can create, it's easy actually running PuTTY in this case. So what you have to do is provide the host or IP address of the machine. So for me, because I'm connected to my VirtualBox host only connector adapter, here you can see I can access the system here. So just to show you what that means, let me bring up the network page. Let me see. So here at the section of the page, you can see I have a VirtualBox host only adapter. So if I click on status right now and I click on details, here you can see I am on 10.10.0.5 while the CentOS box is on 10.10.0.1. Okay, so that means we're in the same network and can communicate with the host system. Alright, so that being said, I'm going to type the IP address of the Linux machine. Just leave the port as it is. And if you just want to run this for one time instance, then that's fine. But if you want to save it, then I'll suggest you give it a name here and then click on save. So what that means is saves it to the list of available sessions that you can always connect to later using PuTTY. So you can see you can always come here and click on load and open. So but once I open, you can see here that my PuTTY terminal is running. So let me bring it up so that it fills the screen. Okay, so just to size it so that we can always use it. Alright, so here you can see that I can also log in CMP319, and here you can see I have the same login like I did before. If I type ifconfig, so here you can see the address I was trying to show you. You can see broadcast and all. So once you have this set up, then you're ready for the next class. Hope this was useful for you, because this is what we have to do to get to the next course. So hope you enjoyed the video. See you in the next one. Have a nice day.